Tonight, exemption for the elderly, but pool owners to be slugged under tough new water restrictions.
An Ipswich man who pleaded for help to find his wife to stand trial for her murder.
Banks on notice after taking $9 billion in fees and charges.
And Sophie Delizio's remarkable recovery continues.
This is 7 News with Rod Young and Kay McGrath.
Good evening. Residents unable to carry buckets of water will get an exemption when hosing is banned in southeast Queensland from next month. But pool owners may be forced to pay hundreds of dollars more under a plan pushed by Campbell Newman.
Until now, pool owners have escaped tough water restrictions in southeast Queensland, but Brisbane's Lord Mayor wants that to end. He's asked all 12 councils to debate a new proposal before Level 3 restrictions come into force on June 13.
People who own pools would be required within, say, 60 days to go and get a pool cover and actually have it on their pool if they wish to continue drawing water from the mains supply.
They cost around $1,000 from pool shops. In Brisbane, they're subsidised by council. An average pool costs $315 to cover.
You have to pay to enjoy that lifestyle.
They raise the temperature of the water by up to 8 degrees. Fine in winter, uncomfortable in summer.
I don't think it's right for council to impose so much upon us.
The Mayor's also agreed to exemptions for people with a medical certificate, stating they can't water their gardens by bucket.
They'll be allowed to water their plants by hose for 1 hour a week.
Barbara and Peter Hughes built their home and garden in the 1960s. 4 decades later, it's dying. And they say 1 hour of watering between 4 and 5 p.m. on the weekend won't bring it back.
We're pensioners, and we just can't afford to replace everything. So I think it'll be a little bit lonely, a lonely garden.
Gold Coast residents will be allowed to hose down driveways and cars over the next 2 weekends. Mayor Ron Clark says the Hinds Dam is too full. The autumn clean-up will help protect against flooding.
We're still 97%, so we should have in our dam only 90% because the top 10% we need as a cushion for any really heavy rainfall event.
But the city still draws water from Brisbane. Ron Clark says his wet weekend will use just 1 million litres of water from the Wivenhoe network, enough to half fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
We can't afford to lose any water at the moment.
Michael Coombs, 7 News.
Before Gold Coast residents get to use any of that water, millions of litres went to waste this afternoon. A water main burst in Surfers Paradise, flooding an intersection and creating a whirlpool. Engineers are tonight still trying to shut the pipes down. The repair work could leave a number of high-rises without water for hours.
A tragedy waiting to happen. That's how an investigation has described the deaths of 5 people when a Department of Immigration vessel sank in the Torres Strait. The boat was unsafe, had no charts, and those on board didn't know how to use the outboard motors or satellite phone.
Even before leaving Saibai Island, the Malusara had been experiencing engine trouble and minor flooding. But the skipper of the 6-week-old boat could not have known how unseaworthy it was when he left for Badu Island with 4 others on board. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau has found design and construction of the boat was deficient, allowing water into the hull.
Malusara did not meet the basic buoyancy and stability standards for either recreational or commercial vessels.
Malusara was one of 6 Dimia boats made by Cairns company Subsea Explorer. The ATSB report has found, despite declaring the boat met Australian standards, Dimia did not engage an independent marine surveyor to monitor the building or to survey the vessels after they were completed. The Immigration Department left oversight of construction and testing to the builder. Peter Foley says independent tests would have identified the basic faults.
This was a tragedy waiting to happen.
The report also found the skipper had not been adequately trained, but the department is quick to put the spotlight on Subsea.
There are questions to be asked of the designer and the builder.
2 immigration officials, 2 women and a 4-year-old girl were on board the Malusara when it went missing during heavy fog on October 15 last year. The body of single mother Flora Enosa was the only one ever found. Nicola Bates, 7 News.
A Redcliffe woman is demanding answers about the mysterious death of her husband after an ambulance he was travelling in crashed on the way to hospital. Ian Stewart's condition deteriorated dramatically. The coroner is now investigating his treatment at 2 hospitals.
When Kate Stewart awoke on Monday, her husband was suffering chest pains, so she called an ambulance.
He walked out to the stretcher.
They live on the same road as the hospital, just 2 kilometres away, but the ambulance was involved in a collision while travelling with lights and sirens.
No one told us that that Ian was badly hurt in the accident or anything. You think he's in an ambulance, nothing can really happen. They're pretty solid vehicles.
Ian was a happy but not healthy man. He'd had a heart bypass last year, a previous stroke and diabetes. Ian was admitted to Redcliffe Hospital on Monday. On Tuesday, he was transferred to Prince Charles, and on Wednesday, he died.
Somewhere along the line, his lung was punctured after he left this house. So his heart failed first. His lungs failed second. His kidney failed third. My man was dying in front of me, one organ at a time, after 27 years of marriage.
Yesterday's autopsy could not determine the cause of death. Kate received a letter from the coroner today and had a friend read it to her.
My role is to ascertain the cause and circumstances of the death.
Queensland Health says it's unable to discuss individual cases.
Who did what to him? What happened? Where did his lung get punctured?
Peter Doherty, 7 News.
An Ipswich man has been committed to stand trial for the murder of his wife. The day before his arrest, Gary Mills made a public appeal to track down her killer.
Last July, Gary Mills pleaded for help to find out what happened to his wife, Jolene. He claimed she hadn't come home from a night out with friends.
Anything, like little detail that can help out with just finding Jo, please.
Hours later, detectives raided the couple's house at Ripley, collecting forensic evidence. Scientific Officer Acting Senior Sergeant Darren Smith told Ipswich Magistrates Court he tested 7 items and identified blood on 6, and that he'd matched the jagged edge of a piece of tape found on Jolene's waist with the tear mark on a roll of tape found in the couple's home. The prosecution tendered phone records, security pictures and statements from 140 witnesses.
The court has also heard from the pathologist who performed the autopsy. He testified the mother of 2 was probably smothered to death.
Gary and Jolene met at an Ipswich high school and had been married for a decade. Jolene's mother sat in the back of the courtroom as her son-in-law hung his head in the dock.
Very tough. You couldn't imagine what it's like for somebody to lose their daughter.
Angela Cox, 7 News.
A drowning tragedy in the Adelaide Hills has taken the lives of 2-year-old twins. The brother and sister wandered off last night and climbed onto a rainwater tank. Somehow they fell inside. They were soon found but couldn't be resuscitated. The twins were being babysat by their grandparents.
It is a very unfortunate situation, and the loss of 2 little children like that, it's not good for any community, actually.
Grief counsellors are helping the family cope.
The ANZ Bank has apologised to 200,000 credit card holders after they were wrongly charged twice. The double-dipping glitch came as banks set a new record in fees, with much of the revenue coming from households.
Banks are making more money from the fees they charge us than ever before. That income topping more than $9.2 billion last year alone.
It's an extraordinarily large figure to be paying for banking in Australia. It's a significant amount of money.
Revenue from credit card fees has risen a staggering 112% in the past 3 years, last year earning a record $899 million, almost double the 202 figure. A recent independent survey showed that banking fees were costing the average Australian family $400 a year. The banks claim it's half that. Either way, consumers say they feel shortchanged.
They don't do anything for it. They make thousands of millions of dollars profit a year.
Each year I pay about $30 a month, so that's 12 times, that's about $400.
Never comes back to the customer, no, of course not.
It is the volume of banking transactions, not high fees, that are making banks richer.
The average price of bank transactions is now coming down.
But one bank, the ANZ, has been forced to admit it's been overcharging customers. 200,000 MasterCard users were wrongly charged a second time. The blunder took $45 million from customer accounts, all of it now refunded.
We would also like to apologise to people for, what's an embarrassing glitch on our behalf.
An embarrassing but rare occurrence, insists the bank. Adrian Brown, 7 News.
2 weeks after she was run down at a pedestrian crossing, Sophie Delizio has been wheeled out of intensive care, giving doctors the thumbs up as she went. The 5-year-old is in a general ward at Sydney's Children's Hospital.
She survived 2 horrific accidents. Now little Sophie Delizio has amazed us again.
She's a tough little girl. She's a real fighter. The fact we were able to get off the breathing machine in 10 to 11 days far exceeded our initial expectations.
When Sophie was hit by a car on a pedestrian crossing 2 weeks ago, doctors feared she wouldn't survive. Now she's out of intensive care and into a general ward.
This really means that she's out of immediate danger. She's made a good recovery from her injuries.
Even in the last 2 days, her recovery's been remarkable. She gave me a thumbs up and she's been talking to her dad. She's a chatty 5-year-old girl.
This afternoon, she's been enjoying her favourite Wiggles videos. Sophie's broken bones need to heal and she'll need more skin grafts, but she could be out of hospital in 2 weeks and back at school in July.
I'm hoping before the start of the Soccer World Cup, shall we say?
Public concern for Sophie's welfare has not only amazed her family, it's also trebled the hospital's mail. 2 extra boxes of letters are being delivered every day just for Sophie. Marguerite McKinnon, 7 News.
And still ahead in 7 News, has a mystery of the deep been solved? Finding Captain Cook's endeavour.
The teenager who's been stalking civil libertarian Terry Gorman.
And living it up at the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show.
Back now with 7 News. Barcaldin's historic Tree of Knowledge, which symbolises the birth of the Australian Labor Party, has been poisoned and will probably die. The legendary 160-year-old ghost gum had more than 30 litres of chemicals poured onto its base. Labor leaders, past and present, have made regular pilgrimages to the site.
It was under this tree that the shearers gathered for the large strike of 1891 that then led to the formation of the Australian Labor Party.
The tree was cloned in 1992 and put on the National Heritage List last December.
A Brisbane teenager who suffered constant bullying because of his dwarfism has admitted stalking high-profile civil libertarian Terry O'Gorman. Matthew Minter embarked on a campaign of threatening emails and phone calls, claiming victims of crime were being ignored.
He calls himself the Civil Libertarian Eliminator, a title Matthew Minter used in hundreds of threatening emails to the Civil Liberties Council in Brisbane.
I was just pretty angry. I did legal studies in year 11 and year 12, and it just sort of angered me, this certain sentencing.
Minter thought sentences for animal cruelty were too lenient. He was particularly angry over the tortured kittens crime involving Townsville soldiers in 2004. He targeted civil libertarian Terry O'Gorman, accusing him of protecting undeserving offenders.
He thought that I was representing those people. I wasn't.
Minter's emails became more and more disturbing.
Sometimes up to 40 or 50 a day that went on for 12 months. But when this person rang me and threatened to rape female members of the Civil Liberties Council, I felt I had no option but to report the matter to police.
The court heard Minter has been bullied for much of his life because of his height disability, and for that reason tends to identify with people he perceives as victims. But in this case, he says he's sorry.
I'm just sorry that I let him anger me.
I accept that he's sorry. I hold no grudges against the man.
Minter pleaded guilty to stalking and was sentenced to 100 hours community service. Kim Scubris, 7 News.
An important piece of Australian history may have finally been found. The ship sailed here by Captain Cook in 1770. Researchers believe they've discovered the wreck of the Endeavour in Newport Harbour on America's east coast, where it was deliberately sunk.
In the murky waters of Newport Harbour lies a shipwreck that's waited 225 years to be discovered. But this isn't just any old forgotten wreck.
The fate of Endeavour has always been somewhat of a historical mystery, so to actually find it here, or to at least find the documentation that showed that it was here, is remarkable, really.
Captain Cook used the Endeavour to discover Australia's east coast, but back in England she was sold off to the British Navy, which intentionally sank her and 12 other vessels off Rhode Island in 1788 to stop the French landing and helping America in its war for independence.
Endeavour was in that fleet, and that's almost a 50-50 chance that she's there in the group that we found so far.
Amid the ruins 10 metres beneath the surface lies an anchor, a ship's keel and cannons. Experts believe identifying the Endeavour will come down to construction detail or artefacts.
We could have our hands on it right now and never be able to prove it. That may be the sad thing.
And it could take 20 years before we have a definite answer. In the meantime, the site has been declared a protected reserve.
You know, more people being aware of it, I would expect we'll probably have to chase a few people away. Yeah.
In the United States, Anna Corrin, 7 News.
Well, the marine industry predicts sales at this year's Sanctuary Cove Boat Show will exceed all previous records. $20 million worth of luxury boats changed hands in the event's first 3 hours.
There are more than 800 boats on display, but these ones attract the most attention, and it's not hard to see why. At $9 million, Katarina is the most luxurious on show. Crystal glasses and suede leather ceilings are just the start.
This boat will just, I think, like a good red wine, get better with age.
The 27-metre-long vessel was built in Italy and no expense was spared.
Everybody likes to have their name of their boats on their crockery.
The Australian equivalent is very different. It's black and fast, 80 kilometres an hour, complete with sunroof.
It's the kind of boat that James Bond would definitely want.
The price, $7 million.
Is it a bit expensive for you at the moment?
Oh, no, I'd buy 2.
While many of these craft may be well out of the price range for most people, 12 have already been sold after just 24 hours on display. A sales record for day one. On the Gold Coast, Josh Adsett, 7 News.
It's a different universe, which brings us to Friday Sport with Ben Davis.
Yes, thank you, Rod. Speaking of a different universe, the Windless Waratahs are battling for a Super 14 final berth. Back home, will they or won't they play fitness tests for Acker and Lepper? And the Maroons' silent assassin set to whip up a storm. Hello everyone. Maroons hooker Cameron Smith is looming as Queensland's dark horse match winner with the number 9 in career best form. Leading the Dally M medal votes, the 22-year-old's set to flourish in the new look Maroons side. The Queenslander's back in Brisbane for the annual sponsors lunch, and like he does on field, Cameron Smith slipped by with little fanfare, but that could all change next Wednesday night.
I'm in the best form of my career so far, and I've already told a couple of people that I'm only 22, turned 23 this year, and if I was going backwards in me form, there'd be something wrong.
Normally topping the Maroons' tackle count, the Iron Man now has help. Stagg and Johnson are 80-minute players, tackling machines that'll take a load off, allowing the number 9 to expand his playmaker role picked up at Melbourne.
I had to do that with Scotty Hill being suspended there, so gave me a bit of opportunity to move out to the 5'8" sort of halfback role, and I've really relished that.
Also relishing it, the Blues and their home ground advantage. Queensland's never won at Telstra Stadium, something the home side's been talking up.
Well, you certainly do that at club level, and so there's no reason why we wouldn't say we're in New South Wales, we're in front of the majority of our big crowd. We don't want to disappoint them.
Luke O'Donnell hasn't ruled out using painkillers for his rib injury.
We'll assess that, when the game gets closer, but, I'm pretty confident as of now that I'm going to get through the game without him.
But this eased the pain for the kids in Brisbane's Royal Children's Hospital, picking up the proceeds of Shane Webke's portrait.
$10,000, all over, done, gone, bought by the Brisbane Broncos.
Fantastic. Well, the Waratahs are trying to bury a week of scandal, currently battling for a place in the Super 14 final. At half-time in Wellington, the Aussies are struggling, trailing the Hurricanes 13-8. The home side were the first on the board with 2 penalty goals inside 8 minutes, but New South Wales were the first to cross the line thanks to a bullocking run by Lottie Takiri. The Hurricanes hit back soon after to regain the lead. Well, Jason Ackermanis is back. Lee Matthews just moments ago officially naming his outspoken star on the interchange bench. Acker will be joined by fellow All-Australian Justin Lepich, who also passed a fitness test on his injured calf.
Most thought Acker's 5-goal haul in the reserves would have been enough.
No, he wasn't that good last week.
He wasn't that good last week in the things that the ball winning and the pressuring and all that, but offensively he was very good.
Battling a hamstring problem for most of the week, last year's Lions best and fairest told 7 News he's fully fit. Still, it seemed he had one more hurdle to climb.
Form and fitness.
For Justin Leppich, it's all about fitness. This afternoon's session, his final chance. Port have their own form concerns, dropping several senior stars.
In the tradition of a great football club, it doesn't matter who it is, you have to move on after you've given some of your most talented players some opportunities. You have to cut the losses and get on with it.
He may have been happy to showcase his bag of tricks to the Sydney public, but Tim Cahill's chance to do it on the world stage is yet to be decided. His knee injury not 100%.
At the minute now, I'm probably 60-40, you know. The thing is, for me, is I don't want to rush anything, and nor does anyone else, because if I'm not right, then I'm taking up a spot for one of the other lads who can play.
Jonathan Williams, 7 News.
There you go, Kay. Heading into the weekend, you're up to date with sport.
Thanks, Ben. You enjoy it. Well, the market finished the week weaker. It was dragged down by a sluggish resources sector. BHP Billiton dropped 26 cents. The ASX 200 fell 18 points. Investment company Babcock & Brown was up. Rio Tinto was another big mover, losing 40 cents. And our dollar buys over 76 US cents.
Stay with us. Talitha's weather next, and a fine weekend on the way.
Hello, Talitha Cummins with tonight's weather. Well, I was hoping to have some good rain to report, but last night we scored less than a millimetre in the city. Cape Morton, on the other hand, got a 61mm dumping. There is still a chance before our sunny weekend. A few light showers could be on their way tonight, hopefully. In the city today, we reached 25 degrees. Right now, it's 19. It did warm up in Ipswich today. 27 degrees was the top there. In contrast, though, the Gold Coast top was just 23. Well, that Tasman high has moved well east, but is still maintaining the southeasterly winds that are bringing isolated showers to our coast. The more exposed coastal spots will score those showers tomorrow. On Sunday, a trough feeds cloud over the west, bringing patchy light rain before it spreads eastwards across most of southern and central Queensland on Monday. Saturday, around the rest of the capitals, cloudy with late showers in Sydney, morning showers in Melbourne, a fine day for Perth and Darwin. It's drying up along our east coast tomorrow, just a possible shower in Cairns and Townsville, becoming more scattered the further south you look, though fine out west. On the waters, southeasterlies at 10 to 15 knots will turn northeasterly inshore in the afternoon. Low tides around 9:45 in the morning, with a high around 3:30 in the afternoon. Well, it looks like a great weekend to be outside, with light winds and sunny conditions to kick off our Saturday. Tops of 25 in the city and 24 on the Gold Coast. There could be a couple of light showers on the Sunshine Coast in the morning, but they will clear fairly quickly. Then on Sunday, we're in for another fine day and 24. It's all before some light rain on Monday and Tuesday. That should clear up by Wednesday, and then we're back to that fine weather on Thursday. Well, if you are spending the weekend on the water, check coastwatch.com.au for all your latest coastal information. And just before we go, a quick look at the radar. A few light showers sitting off the coast. Hopefully they'll make their way to us tonight. But for now, Rod and KU, enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Talitha. Just remember 3 strikes and you're out. That's all for now.
From all the team, have a very good night.
Good night.